Hello, and welcome to the Parkville Living Center's monthly Community Town Hall Forum. My name is Marcus Flores, the Executive Director of the Parkville Living Center and moderator of these Town Hall Forums. I want to start off with a quick word about the Parkville Living Center. Parkville Living Center is a place to celebrate and make space for the spirit of love in our community. We do that in many ways. We have a coffee cafe, we host book clubs, we have a financial counseling program called Money Talk. We're introducing senior citizen programs. We have meeting spaces, and we have various community partners that we engage in activities and events with. And we also have this community town hall forum that happens once a month. The purpose of these town hall forums is to bring people together to engage in dialogue about some amazing topics, people, and organizations right here in our backyard. Our goal is to bring people together in dialogue, create deeper relationships, and have great experiences. A quick word about the format. We have 3 15-minute presentations. After those 15-minute presentations, we're going to put the tables together and have a 15-minute question and answer panel. We'll be fielding questions from the Zoom participants. And a quick word about these microphones. These microphones are how the Zoom participants hear us. So if we're not talking into a mic, they can't be heard. So I'll repeat any questions that come through so that they're heard and recorded on our video. We want to invite honest and thoughtful conversation tonight. And so I'm very excited to introduce our first speaker, Amy Vance. Amy is a nutritionalist, dietetic technician, educator, and fitness instructor in Clay and Platte County. She focuses on evidence-based programs to create change and promote healthy lifestyles through her business, AV Yoga and Wellness. Amy meets clients where they are in life and strives to create a healthier Northland. Amy Vance.
Okay, if I take
Yes.
Okay. Hello. Again, my name is Amy Vance, and I own AV Yoga and Wellness. So a little bit about myself. I am a Northlander. So I have 2 children in the Parkville School District. I have one that is in 8th grade. He goes to Walden. And then I have a daughter who goes to Parkville South. So I'm very invested in the community that we moved to roughly about 6 years ago. So a little background about where I came from and how I started my business and how I support the Northland. I began my professional career in WIC in South Kansas City, where I helped women, infant, and children learn how to eat better, how to get a little bit more physical activity in, and then also things that they could do to create a healthier life or a healthier budget. Once I left WIC, I moved on to a gym, which was way different clientele from going from those that maybe didn't have all their needs met to those that had a large disposable income that could afford a private gym and personal training. From there, I got my master's degree in kinesiology, and I started working for the University of Missouri Extension, where I was the last 6 years, and I was teaching programs in the Northland. So actually Extension brought me to the Northland, where I learned all these amazing programs and I connected with all these wonderful people. So last year, with everything that happened with COVID, I decided that I would like to go out on my own. So I spent last year teaching culinary arts at Kansas City, Kansas Community College. But deep down in my heart, I felt like that I was missing out on something and that I needed to give back to my community. I was still a part of several boards that I'm still an active member of, including the Clay and Platte Falls Coalition. I'm a board member on that coalition. I work really hard to prevent falls in the Northland. So that's where it brought me to going full time with my business, AV Yoga and Wellness. So I offer several different types of programs. Some of them are in kind, some of them are not. I offer a whole slew of wellness programs that I'll briefly touch on, but it's just helping people start where they're at in their diet and then giving them the tools that they need to live a healthier life. If there's any financial needs, I try to meet people where they are. So then on the flip side, on my yoga business, I teach for senior facilities. So I go into independent living communities, and I offer chair yoga. I also offer a variety of strength training and balance exercises. I also offer regular yoga on the mat to people in parks. I work for North Kansas City Library, and we offer a nightly class that actually I had to cancel tonight so that I could be here with you, but they were okay with that. Hopefully they're tuning in to see what we have to offer tonight. I also offer some in Platte County. So the main roots of what I do, or where I've gone to lately, is I signed some contracts with Clay County Senior Fund and Platte County Senior Fund, and I get to offer in-kind classes out in our community. So I offer a slew of programs, including Walk with Ease, which is a 6-week walking program that helps people get out. It helps with our arthritis, it helps with our balance, and it also helps with socializing. So I know socialization has been a real struggle for a lot of people. So the Walk with Ease program is great to get people out walking again and socializing and making new friends. Next, I offer a Matter Balance, which I will actually be teaching here next week. So if you're interested, just reach out or you can show up. A Matter of Balance helps us get over the fear of falling. It's an evidence-based program that was made by Boston University, and it's 8 weeks or 4 weeks, depending on how often we meet. And we go through how to get over the fear of falling. We talk about some of our fears of falling. We do some exercises. We have some home modifications. And then through these conversations, we build friendships. And I also learn some things that maybe are strong needs in the class that maybe aren't in the program. So I can bring in a guest speaker. So if we have several people that need home modifications or they're having lots of falls in their home, then I can bring them in and we can have someone educate them on home modifications and maybe give them the tools or resources that they need. So moving on from A Matter of Balance, I also teach several other programs in a chronic disease series, or living with a chronic disease. So they could be anything from diabetes education, it could be chronic pain education. There's also a workplace wellness, which you meet once a week for 8 weeks. Or twice a week, sorry, you only meet for an hour. So it's really good for businesses that are trying to get a healthier community in their workplace, or maybe just want to give their workplace some tools so that they can try to be a little bit healthier as they go back into the workplace. And several of us picked up some pretty bad habits when we were working at home. So this gives you some tools that you can put in place so that you can be a little bit healthier when you're working back in the workplace. I also offer Tai Chi for arthritis and fall prevention. This is a global Tai Chi that I teach. It was created by Dr. Paul Lamb. Several people teach it across the world, and we bring it here. It helps us get over, or it helps us with our balance. It helps us with our strength. It's also cardiovascular because you're getting the heart pumping. And then it also works the mind. So a lot of people forget that the mind works a lot when we exercise because we have to coordinate in what we're doing. So that's a really great program for those that maybe aren't afraid of falling, but they want to work on preventing falls. So it's a great kind of step way into preventing falls and then moving on to the other programs. Some other.
You still got about 5 minutes.
Okay.
But if you're good.
Some other things that we do offer, I also offer presentations on chronic diseases or any other health classes. I also offer classes for eating for one, and we do cooking demos. So anything that kind of hits the wellness of the family, specializing in our active aging older adults. And I also do some kids things just for fun. So that is a brief overview of what I do at AV Yoga and Wellness. And I'm always open to new classes and trainings, and we're always looking for new fun things.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Amy. If you can't hear, I can hear her real passion. This is second nature information that she has. This is a AV Yoga, and Amy herself is just such a great knowledgeable resource for our community on a wide spectrum of wellness topics. So we've got her email address on our website, and I recommend reaching out to her and finding out the programs that she has and asking some more questions later in this town hall forum. I know I'm going to be asking some about diet and meal planning, so get ready for that. All right, so next up we have Corky McCaffrey from Synergy Services. And by way of an intro, we have, after following her father's airline career, attending quite a few different schools and graduating from Oak Park and UMKC, Corky has been Synergy's Community Engagement Coordinator for 10 years. So let's hear from Corky.
Thank you, thank you. Sometimes I'm just shocked that I've been there for 10 years and then other times I still feel like a newbie. So Synergy Services is all about ending violence in the family. So we do tons of community outreach, education, and mental health counseling, but we walk that talk with 3 emergency shelters. One is for domestic violence victims and their children. One is for homeless teenagers or teenagers in some sort of a crisis. And then our third is for, we call them our littles. It's for young children who've been, I always say it this way so I don't ruin your whole night. They've been taken out of unfortunate circumstances. They're going to come and stay with us. We had a little boy who came into Synergy after being found in his mom's attic. He was 7 years old, and when he was found, he weighed 23 pounds. The first time he came into Synergy, he was terrified of everything. The people, the furniture, the air in the room, terrified of everything. The last time I saw this kid, and this actually took a couple years, he walked up to our executive director, high-fived her, and said, "What's up, turkey butt?" So we may have brought that kid back a little bit too far, but that is exactly what we do at Synergy. We have figured out that as humans, we have this tremendous capacity for resilience. We can bounce back from just about anything as long as we have the appropriate resources. And that's what we feel we are, the appropriate resources. So we started in 1971. So if you do math really quickly in your head, this is our 50th year. We started as Synergy House in a little house up on the hill on the Park University campus. We still have that house through the generosity of Park University. That house and where I office at the Meyer Counseling Center. I've heard that we give Park $1 a year, $20, whatever. They've basically given us 2 buildings to operate out of. Great community partners. So since we've been around for 50 years, I cannot tell you the number of times that I'm speaking to a room full of grown-ups and someone will walk up to me after I'm done and they will say, "You guys saved my life when I was in high school. Had it not been for you, I wouldn't have had a place to live. I don't know what I would have done. I definitely wouldn't have finished school." So I always try to get a name. Do you remember anyone you worked with? Because we so rarely hear those happy endings just through HIPAA and because we live in a somewhat transient society. And then I'm emailing the next day, "Guess who I ran into? Guess where they are now?" And people do come back and help us. Our printing actually right now is being taken care of by a woman whose mom chose the boyfriend over her and kicked her out at 16 years old. And she came and stayed with us. She now owns a printing company, and to give back, she does all of our printing at no charge. So I know I love those happy endings, those happy stories. There are sadly right now 2,000 kids in Kansas City who at this minute have no idea where they're going to sleep tonight. So it's tragic. I can't believe we're willing to write off a whole generation of young kids. We added the domestic violence component in the 80s. So when we started with homeless teenagers in 71, I'm not sure anyone knew what a homeless teenager was or that there was such a thing. I think in the 80s, people did know domestic violence was going on, but we certainly didn't talk about it. When I started at Synergy 10 years ago, the statistics of a woman being a victim at some point in her life, 1 out of every 3, 1 out of every 4. It is now 10 years later, we are going in the wrong direction. It is 1 out of every 3. I'm hoping that is due to, we don't have to keep it a secret anymore. It's just not, we're not blaming the victim anymore. We actually are having more women reaching out for help. And I will say, just to clarify, We've come so far as women. Yes, we can be abusers, but the preponderance of the abusers are men and the preponderance of the victims are women. So there are a total of 400 shelter beds for domestic violence victims in the whole city, and that includes the shelter in Harrisonville. So we had a mom who called one time reaching out with 5 children. This means she needs 6 beds. No one ever has 6 beds at the same time. But when women reach out to us, we call it a lethality assessment. We're trying to determine how much danger they're in. Well, after doing hers, we knew if we didn't do something, something horrible was going to happen to either her and or her children. We used to have a downstairs playroom for the younger children in shelter and an upstairs playroom for the older children. In a matter of hours, we had converted that downstairs playroom into a 6-bed family room, thinking when this woman is able to go on with her life, move out of shelter, we will have our play. Yeah, no, we will never have a downstairs playroom again. That will always be an additional 6 beds. One of our therapists, who's much smarter than I am, said, if we would view domestic violence as a disease, we would then realize that we're in the middle of an epidemic. So it's just, yeah, what can I say? We had one family who was in that 6-bed family room for quite a while. This was a very special circumstance. She was there with her children for almost a year. She tried to go back. It didn't work out, as it usually doesn't. Came back in, and her little, probably 6 or 7-year-old boy came running into the 6-bed family room and said, "We're home." So needless to say, all of the Synergy employees were tearing up and like, oh my gosh. But to be able to provide that for a family in that situation is just the most wonderful thing we do. So we also have a children's center at Pratt Farm. Most of the horrible stories you read about in the Star, especially those involving children, are going to end up being touched by Synergy in some way. We had a little boy who came in. I need practice telling this story because they asked me to tell this story at the end of our golf tournament, and I made myself cry. And it's okay if I make you guys cry. It is not okay if I make myself cry. So let me practice this. I'm going to try to get through this. We had a little boy who came into the children's center, maybe 8, 9 years old, who there's a Southern expression that kind of goes, whatever you're putting down, I'm not picking up. He just wouldn't have anything to do with any of us. Just leave me alone, give me my space, go away. And so that's what we did, because that's how we deal with them sometimes. A couple days later, another little boy, same age, came in. This kid was visibly frightened. The first little boy who walked up to the new little boy and said, "Don't be afraid, they like kids here." Is that just like a ringing endorsement for what we do? I love it. We will sometimes get children who are so traumatized, they won't talk at all. And that's when we rely on our dog therapists. Yes, we have dog therapists. We also have, one of the saddest things we do is our Children's Advocacy Center. Children who have experienced severe physical or sexual abuse will come into the advocacy center and we will tape their interview. We have trained forensic interviews. Now there's a myth going around that because we do that, they don't have to go to court, but no, they do. We are afforded the right in our Constitution to confront our accuser, even if our accuser is 4 and we're 40. That child still has to go to court. And you know, it's terrifying to go to court as a grown-up. Can you imagine what it's like going to court as a 4-year-old and trying to tell a room full of grown-ups the horrible things that this person did to you? So we have a court dog. His name is Rasta. He's the most beautiful golden retriever you've ever seen. And the funny thing is, the jury is not allowed to actually see the dog. So we have to put Rasta into the witness box before the jury is seated. And I always say, you know why? Whichever side the golden retriever is on, they win. Nobody has to say anything. It's an automatic win. So it was kind of funny. There's a Sarah Andresic Victims Advocate Award that Eric Zahn, the Platte County prosecutor, gives out every year. And he gave it to our dog one year. And he was telling me this, and I went, Eric, isn't that supposed to be a secret? And he goes, yes, Corky, but we didn't think the dog would be able to figure it out. So yeah, he was totally right. And that same year, one of the chambers wanted to know all of the Synergy employees who had received awards over the past year. Yeah, our dog was the only one who'd received an award that year, but it went over well with the audience. We also have a youth, oh, tell me when I'm running over. We also have a youth resiliency center, drop-in resource center. A lot of the kids who go in there are homeless. Anyone 12 to 21 can go in and use those services for free. There is an art studio. We do a lot of art therapy there. The kids can work in just about any medium there is. I always say, unless it involves a blowtorch or molten metals. There's a potter's wheel, there's a kiln in the basement. Music studio, recording studio, I have to refer to my notes or I forget half the stuff we do there. Computer lab, we love it when we get volunteers who can come in and tutor some of these kids, because if you're homeless, you're probably behind in school. So we love it when tutors can come in and kind of get them up to speed where they need to be. Half basketball court, we do all kinds of classes there, yoga classes, laundry, lockers, library, food. You can't do anything with teenagers unless you have food. There is a free medical and dental and vision clinic. Medical clinic is staffed by Children's Mercy. The dental and vision clinic is staffed by, it used to be Miles of Smiles, but they added the vision, so it's now Level Up Kids. That is free to the kids who come in there. They can be that kid's primary physician, their dentist. So it's amazing. Transitional living program, you age out of both our shelter and foster care at 18. So we have an 18-month program where we are trying to teach recently turned 18-year-olds how to be grown-ups over that 18 months. There is a nominal fee for that. We give that back to them when they graduate. Don't tell them this. You are all on your honor not to tell them. That's always such a surprise. Talked about the Children's Advocacy Center. Street outreach service sounds kind of creepy. We drive around in vans looking for homeless kids. Doesn't that sound creepy? But we're trying to connect them to resources. And during the winter, we always have coats, blankets, food, water. We're trying to bring them in, and sometimes they won't have any of it. Safe Place, you all have been to Quick Trip. You've seen those signs. That's us. That is a national program, but those employees are trained. If a kid comes in and says, I need some help for whatever reason, they call us. Maternity group home, teen parent support program, permanent housing, rapid rehousing for domestic violence victims. It's truly ridiculous how many different programs. We administer, I would say 30, 35 different programs out of that Youth Resiliency Center. And then we used our Clay County Children's Services funding to put about 24 therapists into schools in Clay County. School counselors are wonderful at, where am I going to go to college? How am I going to get there? How do I pay for it? They're not so good at, I'm not having a very good life right now, and I've decided that maybe the world would be a better place without me in it. That's where our therapists come in. We're very focused on teen suicide right now. And I guess I can say this, we're going to go for a Platte County Children's Services Fund soon. So we would love to have your support on that. It is a 1/4 of a penny sales tax that goes to organizations like Synergy. We are not the only one who work with abused and neglected children. All of the money that will be collected in Platte County will be used for Platte County children. It stays in the county. So it's been a very challenging time for Synergy. Needless to say, not a good time to be a not-for-profit trying to run a shelter during a pandemic. So I feel lately like we're taking 1 step forward and 10 steps back. The shelters will be COVID-free. 1 person will come in. That means we have to put everyone back into hotels, spend the thousands of dollars to decontaminate the building. It's just a very difficult time for us. So we need your support, anything you can do to help us out or anything we can do to help you out. So give me a call. Oh, and our Stand Up for Synergy is our big event that we do every year. This year it's on November 6th. Our comedian is Joel. I know. Last year we had to go virtual. We have our fingers crossed that we'll be able to do it in real life. So I will share at my executive director, when she was greeting the audience a couple of years ago, said, you know, I've always heard that it takes a village to raise a child, but looking out at my audience, and you have to understand that this is a room full of rich people, I'm thinking it might actually take a gated community. So I'm sitting there going, did she actually, were you there? Did she actually say that out loud? I mean, we all think that, but none of us say it. So anyway, thank you so much for listening to me just prattle on. Did I go over?
You know,
I'm
you're
sorry if I
perfect.
did.
Perfect, Corky. Thank
You're
you.
always perfect.
Yes.
Right, Corky?
Please.
That was so good. Thank you. You know, Synergy is really an anchor organization here in Kansas City. They're a resource for very difficult situations that many of us probably don't want to face, and are very glad that other organizations pick up that those issues. So look for ways to connect, and if this speaks to your heart, they can use the help, the volunteer, the support. And on November 6th, their big event sounds pretty awesome. So check that out too. So now we come to our last speaker of the night, Karen Dolt. Karen Dolt has been the CEO of Northland Healthcare Access since May of 2006. She's successfully led the nonprofit from serving less than 1,000 patient visits per year to over 6,000 patient visits in 2020. Karen has developed many exciting programs, initiatives, and partnerships to serve the Northland low-income residents in need of critical care. Prior to her position in the Northland Healthcare Access, Karen was executive director of Northland United Way Services from 1993 to 2006, and she was Clay County supervisor from 82 to 93 for the United Services Community Action Agency. So now it's time for Karen Dolt.
Yay. Thank you, Marcus. Thanks. Well, I certainly thank Jolene and Marty and Marcus for inviting me tonight. Are we going to do the slideshow?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. I'm sorry, I can talk for a
There you
while.
go.
That's never a problem. So, and I'd like to just draw attention to the fact that Marty Zersky is one of the founding members of Northland Healthcare Access, and she's with us tonight, and I know all of you know her well. So beyond everything else that you know she has done in the community, she helped get this program started and up and running. And so we believe that healthcare is a right and it's a community responsibility to help folks that are in need, that it's not a privilege. We live in the United States and we believe that everyone should have equal quality and quantity of healthcare. And since 1991, Northland Healthcare Access has invested over $35 million with partnerships in Clay and Platte County since we were founded. And so we do this now through about 8, 9 different programs that I'm going to go through with you, and I'll talk about each one of them and how you can access those programs. And it's your neighbors, it's your family members, it's your friends that can access this. And just as Corky was talking, I've been in so many situations out to eat at a restaurant and somebody will see my name tag and they'll say, "Are you with Northland Healthcare Access? I just want to tell you, you saved my life and you helped me because I had cancer. I had no insurance or whatever health problem that they have." So we have stacks of thank you notes. So I'm ready for the next slide. We'll go ahead into the programs. So I want to talk about, it does take a village to make things happen, and you can never do it by yourself. And so we do it with all of our partnerships and our programs. So I'm going to talk about these partnerships and programs. We partner with the Platte County Health Department. They have provided over 1,000 encounters last year at their family healthcare center in Parkville. And actually they have some exciting news that they're actually going to be moving and expanding by the first of next year. So we're excited to be able to expand that. A crucial piece of this is as people come in for needs, they have other needs, and they have those social determinants that are keeping them from having a vibrant life. And so we pay for half the salary. We support the social worker that is at Platte County Health Department so that they can provide those services. We also support Samuel, and that's in Platte County. And then we support Samuel U. Rogers. They have a clinic. They have two clinics in Clay County, one at the Clay County Health Department, and then one at with a partnership with North Kansas City Hospital, one on North Oak. And just to kind of explain to you what normally happens, Samuel U. Rogers is a federally qualified health center. And usually in a situation like that, the reason they get a higher rate of Medicaid, Medicare, and that way they can support those folks that are uninsured. Well, in Clay and Platte County, you really need a mix of about 60% Medicaid, Medicare, 40% self-pay. In the Northland, those numbers are skewed opposite. So in order for them to be in Clay and Platte counties and have those facilities and those clinics, Northland Healthcare raises almost $500,000 to keep them here. So we support them. And the other thing this does, while we raise money for the uninsured, you have to understand that our Medicaid and Medicare population wouldn't have places to go because a normal physician's office will only take a certain percentage of Medicaid and Medicare in order to have a successful office. But that now opens because we support them for the uninsured. They're able to remain open, and you have places where Medicaid and Medicare patients can go. So we'd be very limited in the Northland with Medicaid and Medicare if these two entities were not available to us. We also, a few years ago, started a program, and this was actually suggested by all of our local hospitals. And I'll speak to that and kind of give you an outline of how that happens. So this program, Northland Healthcare Access pays for 2 qualified mental health providers, and we locate them at the 2 primary care offices. Because when a person comes in for healthcare reasons, they could have many other mental health conditions, stress, substance abuse, mental health issues. So the idea is to provide a holistic care so they can go in, the physicians suggest that they need some additional services. They can go right to that office and get those needs because it's right there in the clinic. So many times the people that we deal with are always in crisis. And so they're thinking about how they're going to get food for dinner. How are they going to get to work? Because they're going to lose their job if they don't get to work. And so once they leave the facility, they don't always come back. And so when we're trying to provide the holistic care at one location, we also partner with Samuel U. Rogers on their dental program. And of course, because of COVID, that's been on hold for the last year. Next slide. So we do a lot of very innovative programs. What Northland Healthcare Access tries to do is, and we look at it with all of our community and community hospitals, Tri-County, we look at the gaps in services. And then we figure out how to develop a program to serve those gaps. So I'm going to talk about a few of those. So we have a volunteer network. We have Northland Care is a volunteer network of physicians who donate everything for a primary care visit. So once a person is in the Northland Care program, they get free health care at a physician's office. Just the same as you or I who are able to afford that. And so we have a rotating list of people that get, because they get well, they go to work, or we get them on Medicare. Then we usually have about 400 or 500 people in that program. We have every physician's office in Clay and Platte County participate with us. Not every physician, but at least one or two at every office participate with us. So you can see what our numbers are. We had, and so then we have Northland Care Plus program, which is a program, the hospitals came to us and said, you know, the healthcare as it is, people come in and they can't afford it. And then they come in and they can't go back to their physician's office because they owe a bill. So what happens is they go through the emergency room. So we developed a program and we set aside about 25,000, 30,000 in our budget to pay co-pays, ancillary services for our patients. And so we rotate about 15, 20 patients that's isolated in that program. So we have 22 patients in that program now. Next slide. So we also have this great care coordination program that I'll be talking about. And we do that through the Northland Care program and the Northland Care Plus. And we partner with the Clay Platte Family Medicine office, and we do their care coordination. They're the largest standalone physician's office in the Northland. They see over 40,000 patient visits, and about 10 to 15% of those folks are low income. So we have a contract with them, and so we work with those folks in the program that are low income to get them all their needs so they can continue to have preventive care and not immediate care. So you can see that. Next slide. So we have, through a partnership, our offices are donated to us, and they're at St. Luke's Northland. And they also donate this number to us. Remember this number. Give it to anybody that you think might need it. 880-6700. So we have a care coordinator, social worker actually, that works in the evenings. And so she returns calls within 24 hours. So we distribute this number and market it through the community. You need help care, call this number. So then that person on that line calls those folks back and helps them fit into the proper place where they need, whichever program is the best for them. So that kind of gives an outline of how many callers we've had through that program.
Can you speak into the microphone?
This one?
Either one, just as long.
I'm trying to, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. So next slide. You can get it. Okay. So this is a new program. We actually started two new programs during the COVID. So, which is pretty unusual for a not-for-profit. So one of them is a prenatal grant. We actually got a grant from United Healthcare, and we have a prenatal coordinator that is office at the Samuel U. Rogers Clinic on North Oak and at Clay County. And so she meets with as many as 15 pregnant women every day. She had been on the job for 2 weeks when she got a young girl, 13 years old. that was pregnant. And she helped her through that. Not particularly, she didn't have a supportive family. She had a boyfriend, he was 16, very supportive. He was going to support her and take care of her at 16. But through that process, she worked with her and she delivered a healthy baby. So that's what she does, is to make sure she has all the resources at her fingertips so that women that are underinsured and uninsured can deliver healthy babies. So you can see those numbers. And we just started this program in January, really in March of this year. Next slide. I think I've talked about it. So we kind of stepped out of our box a little bit for the Clay County Commission last year, this year, along with United Way, and ask us if we know we're a healthcare entity, but could we step out of that box and help those folks that were affected by COVID with rent? Now, something you need to remember about this particular program, it certainly isn't just about those that rent. It's really about our business owners and our landlords that during that time, they still had to make their mortgage payments, but they weren't getting the rent. So we have been, to date, we have helped Clay County residents with, actually that's a little bit old. We've helped with over $650,000 right now. So with that, and that is the CARES Act funding through the Clay County Commission. And we've helped, I think it's now, we're up to about 150 Clay County residents. So next slide. So I can conclude, do I have more time or?
You got a little bit more if you'd like.
Little bit more. I want to talk a little bit. We have a board of directors, and how do we come up with these programs and how do we fill the gaps? We are very fortunate in the fact that all 4 of our hospitals sit on our board of directors, either at a CEO level or at a CFO level or a VP. So we have the decision makers at our table in a program committee. And that's how we develop these programs. And we look at gaps of services, and we're always open to be able to fill the needs of our community. We want a healthy community. And I might, since I have a couple more minutes, well, a few years ago, we started, there were our hospitals, along with our 2 health departments, Clay and Platte County, and Tri-County, we started an organization called Northland Health Alliance, and we invite non-for-profits to be a part of it. And we actually do a community health assessment. We're in the process of actually our 3rd one. And from that, we develop a community health improvement plan. And the 3 areas that we have worked in historically: chronic disease, access to care, and behavior health. And that's it draws all of our community together at the same table, working at the social determinants that are needed in our community. So I'll wait, maybe there'll be questions. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It is always a privilege to talk about Northland Healthcare Access. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. So thank you very much, Karen. Northland Healthcare Access is, as you can hear, an underlying support system for how we engage with our health system. So I'm glad that they're doing that, because that's very complicated. What I've gathered is there's a lot of intricacies, and it's this underlying foundation of support and networks of programs and doctors that we all could be a little bit happy knowing that there's organizations and people doing that here in our community. So give them a call if you have any questions. We'll have that number on our website as well. It's 880-6700. And that's their resource line. And we'll be sure to share that with you all. So right now, we're going to put the tables together and get ready for our questions and answer portion. So bear with us for 1 second, please. All right. I want to move this over here just for a second. Well, I would like to start by opening up the questions to our in-person attendees.
Isn't there a fundraiser coming up?
Yes, thank you, Marty, for mentioning that. And
Well, hold on. The question was, is there a fundraiser coming up?
Yes,
Yes.
and thank you very much for mentioning that. And I meant to mention that because Corky mentioned hers, and we attend each other. So it's called Bon Santé, Taste of Health. It's been going on for 15, 20 years now. We actually at Argosy Casino, a big shout out to them every year. It's a live auction, a silent auction, and a wine tasting. It's going to be really scaled down this year because of COVID. We normally have about 400 people. We're going to scale it to 125, 150, and then do the live auction live. You can get online and see it also, but it's been very successful over the years and have grown. And Northland Healthcare Access has been so fortunate because of all the community support. And so Argosy provides everything for us for that event. So thank you. November 4th this year. Thank you
All right.
for reminding me.
Any other questions?
I actually have a shout out for Karen's organization. I can't imagine what this community would be like without your organization in it.
Well,
So
thank you, and the same to you. I appreciate that. I will say that there isn't another organization like us in the state of Missouri. Throughout the United States, there's a few, like in Portland, Oregon. They do a great job, but there isn't anything in Missouri like us that can bring the whole community together, working on a focus.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
want to ask if there were any questions in the chat at this time. And if not, I've got some to ask, but just wanted to open up and see. All right. Yes, another question here.
It is amazing to me what you all do. And it started from nothing,
Right.
an idea. And look what they've done. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Thank
it
you.
amazes us on a daily basis too. We have days where we go, oh yeah, we did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that really speaks to the power of community and the support that's here and the compassion that we have for our neighbors, where we have Amy here who's kind
Yeah.
of starting and getting, and I have a question. My question is actually for Amy. It's about, you mentioned kinesiology.
Yes.
Mhm.
What is that?
The easiest way to explain it is just how the body moves. So when I was going back and looking at my master's degree, I was teaching fitness classes, high impact fitness classes. And I was just trying to think of a way to get back to my community. And I love the nutrition part. So I thought, why not just learn more about the physical fitness part? So it's worked out really well for my career choice.
Yeah, it sounds like all the pieces are there really to guide an individual through wellness. And I know for me, sometimes it's a little intimidating to speak to a big organization, through big systems. And so I love the fact that there are people like you and resources that allow for that first level of contact that then feeds into other systems too. So thank you very much for that. I see a question out here in the audience.
Amy, where do you hold all these different classes all over the place? Do you have one central location?
I do not. I actually am a traveling teacher. So I go to different sites. So if you have a site that is looking for a program, either I can offer it or I will try to help you find someone that can. So I never want somebody in our community to feel like they don't have the resources or tools or education. So if it's out of my field of practice, I'll help you find it. Or even if it's just a small class that you want, maybe there's not enough people to take the class, I can still sit with you and give you the education. That way you feel like you've got what you need.
I was struck by the preventive
Mhm.
portion of what you do. And the more people who come to you, the less people come
Yeah,
to
come to us,
us.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, yes, because it's healthy mind and physical health.
Yes.
Mhm,
Nice.
mhm.
I had a question for Corky. You had mentioned community involvement or ways that the community can help or assist. Is that volunteer? Is that attending fundraisers? What kind of ways can the community help?
Absolutely. So sadly, during the pandemic, we were not able to use our inside volunteers, and it almost killed us because we so rely on volunteers doing the things that, we can't do. We have in the children's center, we have a dozen 4-year-olds who need to be put to bed at the same time, and we don't have a dozen. We always have to stay in ratio. I think at the children's center, it's 1 in 3, but these are, I would classify them as high needs children. I mean, they're coming off some horrible trauma. And, it took me a long time to figure out that it doesn't really matter what mom or dad have done to these children. That's still mom and dad, and these children still love them. And so to be separated from them it's trauma. So yeah, anyway, I digress. Yes, we definitely need volunteers. Right now, the only way we can use volunteers is in our gardens. Each one of our shelter has a garden. And they look so bad because we didn't have the help that we needed during a pandemic. So, and any kind of outside work, grounds maintenance, anything like that. Right now, our biggest push right now is we need Christmas presents for all of these children. And, people say, well, you're only working with like 100 kids at one time. Yes, but we rely on those donations all through the year. We make a big deal about any kind of holiday, and we get kids 11, 12 years old into shelter who have never had a birthday party. Can you imagine? So we rely on those Christmas donations all through the year. So when you're out buying presents for your own children or your grandchildren, buy another one. Call me, I'll come get it.
That's awesome.
Don't wrap it. We'll get, certain women's groups and things, they do this beautiful wrapping, and we of course have to unwrap everything to make sure it's appropriate
Even,
for
yeah.
the children, right? So yeah, did I ramble enough?
No,
to
that was
answer that?
I love the stories that you bring, really, because it allows for me to see more than just the answer. I see the impact, I see the connection, and so I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you very much. I have a question for Karen. You had mentioned, and I see big dollars. I saw CARES Act. When you had mentioned, say, raising $500,000 for a program, is that from individuals, organizations, or from government?
As much as.
Did I leave any out? Is there some other pockets?
Yes. Well, first off, I want to piggyback on something that everybody has said here. Usually I start off with my presentations that you really need to understand how blessed you are to live in the North End, in a community that comes together to solve their own social service determinants. And so, yeah, we do that. We figured that out. We get funding, which is highly unusual, from all 4 of our hospitals. When I go south, they say, how do you make that happen? And then we get funding from the Health Forward Foundation, the big foundation that gives out lots and lots of grants. You get funding from it. We get funding from Clay County Commission. We get funding from Riverside. We write tons of grants, and I could name those, Bank of America, all of those. Yeah. And so we are the only ones north of the river that gets the Kansas City Health Levy dollars.
Okay,
And
yeah.
those dollars, it's actually a 3-part health levy for personal property tax. And actually where not the majority of money, but the growth in the dollars comes from the Northland because our property values are going up. And so we're the only ones north. That was legislation that was written to take care of folks that were under and uninsured for healthcare needs and mental health. So we get that funding. So a various one, yeah, or
Foundations is one that I forgot to mention.
yeah,
Foundations.
and that's a big one
Yeah.
for us. I mean, we usually have, 5 or 6 grants going in all the time, so, yeah.
Keep those donations coming, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
They make their way here.
And
no
then,
matter
of
where they-
course, our event is our only big event.
Oh, question. And just to repeat that question, is do you have the program where you go into the classrooms to discuss domestic violence?
And bullying at the same time, right? And it's so sad, our anti-bullying programs are based on behaviors of middle school girls.
Yeah.
See that?
I got one of those.
My question to Karen is,
Mhm.
don't you have a prescription?
Yes, program, yes. We do that through the Northland Care Plus program. Those folks that we help with we pay their bills, they can go back to their copays, they can go back to their physician's office. And then also we'll pay for prescriptions. Now, for all the other folks in just the Northland Care program, we help connect them to all the prescription avenues. There's lots of them that we will write to a pharmacy company to try to get free drugs, all those kind of there's just a realm of how we do that. So yeah. Thank you for asking that.
I had one other question. It's kind of a question I personally wanted to know from Amy, and it was, do you have any programs that help with grocery shopping and meal planning?
I do.
You do,
I
and
do
what are those?
individualized meal planning. So if it's something you're interested in, we can set up an appointment and then I will go over what your family traditionally eats. We have recipes and then we can make a meal plan depending on what you would like.
That's awesome. Are these services listed on your website?
They are listed on my website. I have it separated out on my website. Under services, you'll see my wellness services, and then you will also see yoga and exercise. And then I have a special section called Active Agers, and those are my classes that I partner with to hit our 60+ crowd. So those would include most of the programs that I mentioned tonight that I partner with Lake County Senior Fund and Black County.
Excellent. Thank you. That is excellent. I will be hitting up that website and finding ways to connect with you.
Yes.
Was there any closing words that you guys wanted to say? We're wrapping up here now. We're at our time, and I just wanted to see if there was anything else that you wanted to say.
Well, just thank you for helping us get the word out on everything we do. And I appreciate learning about a new entrepreneur in the community. So that's great. And the other thing I would say, Corky, I was a few years ago, few plus years ago, I was a volunteer, and I actually did that program in the schools when it was just getting started. And I'll never forget, I was in a kindergarten and we were talking about, and I know the program has much changed, but inappropriate and appropriate touches. And I was in a kindergarten class and this little kindergartner raised his hand and said, "Is it inappropriate?" And then he went on to tell me what was inappropriate. And the teacher walked up and said, "Did he just say what he did?" So we worked with him. That poor little boy had some, and it was like the program had just started and I was a volunteer for that program.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I will often run into people who say, "Oh yeah, I was on your board."
Yeah.
I'm always like,
Oh,
"Oh,
I know,
come
me
back
too."
and be on our board again." I know.
Right on. Well,
Really? And come back and be the president of our board again. We need help. We need all of you.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, what do I have? Some closing notes here. All right, so thank you all for tuning in and checking out our town hall this month. If you like this format and want it to continue, please invite a friend. Come on into the Living Center and support these town hall dialogues. They're discussions that allow us to get deeper relationships with these organizations and with the people of our community. Because as you can see, Parkville has resources, we have needs and resources. And so the Living Center could be one of these places where we sort through some of those and make connections. So tell a friend and come back next month. That concludes our town hall for today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.